Hello and good morning, everyone. Here from Strasbourg for the S&D Group press conference, and I hand over to our President Iratxe García Perez.
Muchas gracias. Buenos días.
Thank you very much indeed. Good morning to all of you. And obviously very grateful to you all for being here, allowing us to take a run through the plenary session together. And I want to start today by congratulating the Democratic Party on their excellent results yesterday in municipal elections in Italy and the German election last week, and I think we have seen that borne out once again today. The results of the elections in Italy, I think, show that European Social Democrats
hay muchísimas.
And there are far too many families who are extremely vulnerable, who are unable to pay their energy bills. And this is a widespread problem across the European Union. Now, I remember last time round, during the plenary, some in the chamber were referring to one of the consequences of climate change policies being a rise in energy prices, whereas I said that that was to miss the point, that we need a climate policy that tackles the problem head on. We need to focus on renewables. But what is unacceptable is to have a situation in which companies are reaping a threefold increase in their profits, whereas at the same time, you've got people struggling. So we need to talk about energy poverty and we need to talk about European solutions. And that is precisely why we want to see this debate taking place in Parliament. So we have a motion for resolution, very much hope to see the other political groups backing it, but certainly as Socialists and Democrats, that's what we're working on. I mean, we think that this is abundantly clear. Although the European vaccination program worked very well, it was a community instrument to try and control prices by cooperation. And you should see that replicated when it comes to energy. We need to be able to negotiate together. So negotiate the prices collectively in order to get good results. It's as simple as that. And that is what we're going to be saying this week during the debate. Now, obviously, there are other issues as well that came to the fore over the weekend, the Pandora Papers, of course, and as a political group, obviously, we had to respond. And that is why we also suggested there should be a debate. We did so yesterday. A majority of the groups are behind us, so we will be having a debate as well as a resolution. That'll be in October too, though. Now, of course, we need more European resources. We've seen that for the purposes of our recovery plans, and we don't want those resources leaking outside Europe. And we, on many occasions already, as Social Democrats have insisted, and will do it again this week, is that we scrap qualified majority voting in council in order to make any headway when it comes to clamping down on tax evasion. So these are the main subjects. I mean, having a prime minister vetoing fiscal transparency in Europe, well, that's what we're up against in the case of the Pandora Papers. And so that is why we need to have the qualified majority system. We want to avoid having a state of affairs in which one country can veto the whole endeavor. And it's no coincidence, by the way, that it was the S&D group that right at the beginning of this parliament pushed for the FISC subcommittee, so a subcommittee to try to get to grips with all of these issues, which is, of course, chaired by one of our colleagues from the S&D group, and I think, came about as a result of our group's commitment and determination in this regard. Now, on Thursday, in the Conference of Presidents, we, at long last, will be putting the final stamp on this joint parliamentary assembly between the EU and the UK. I mean, we very much believe in the creation of this parliamentary body, particularly at a time in which we're navigating some very choppy waters, a situation extremely delicate, and we obviously recently have heard the Prime Minister Boris Johnson call into question the Northern Ireland Protocol, and that is why it is absolutely crucial that we try and create some space for a parliamentary coming together. All of this, of course, very much contingent on Boris Johnson's attitude. Now, the Northern Ireland Protocol, of course, is the only way we can avoid having a hard border between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, and we will insist on that, as we have during previous sessions. And of course, you know, what the UK is going through right now is one of the predictable consequences of Brexit. But, you know, none of the champions of Brexit really explain that to their people. I mean, certainly not during the referendum campaign. I mean, basically, they used certain arguments which have now been blown out of the water. You know, there's a lack of labor in key sectors right now, and nobody really explaining that this is the result of the decision was taken, and nobody properly explaining the consequences of
la frontera en...
Now, when it comes to the border between Poland and Belarus, now there again, I would like to just make a few remarks. I mean, it is wholly unacceptable, intolerable, the state of affairs there. It is inhumane. A number of people died over the weekend, froze to death. Many children find themselves suffering in this plight. You've got President Lukashenko, who is exploiting the plight of these migrants. And of course, Poland must treat migrants decently and comply with the Geneva Convention. We know that the situation is extremely delicate, extremely sensitive, but human rights must come first. And so that is why we would support Frontex's demand and would certainly want NGOs to be present on the border, and I'll be in Warsaw later this week in order to support comrades from my group. Will have meetings with civil society, with women's organizations, LGBTI groups, as well as judges. The country needs our support, and they can count on the commitment of the S&D group to the rule of law. I've said before on many occasions that you shouldn't confuse Poland's government with the country, with the Polish people. And that is why it's important that we do this field work, that we be there to exercise oversight, to work with civil society and to support them, because they are clamoring for the rule of law to be respected. Now, I just wanted to make these announcements. Of course, there'll be a meeting of the West Balkans prime ministers tomorrow. And I think that that is a clear signal from our political group. And I'll be traveling to Albania as well as to North Macedonia in order to send a physical signal of our support for their striving for accession. But certainly the political message is going to be clear. We certainly support their bid for membership. So I would like to end by saying a few words about the Canary Islands and just to signal our solidarity with the island of La Palma, which for a few weeks now has been battling a terrible situation. I just want to send out a strong message of solidarity from the European Union. The European Union, what is more, has instruments at its disposal to respond to this kind of situation. You've got hundreds of families who are living in desperate poverty. They're destitute. They've lost everything. They haven't got any work. They depend on agriculture. And that is why more than ever before, Europe needs to stand alongside those who are suffering most. And that is why Commissioner Ferreira, right from the outset, has been there to support the people, and certainly the European Parliament too will respond favorably whenever a request is made to draw on the Solidarity Fund. Of course, the people of the Canaries can count on this Parliament. So I'll leave it there And of course, I'm very happy to answer any of your questions.
Thanks a lot, Iratxe. Are there any questions in the room? Yes, in the back, please.
Fernanda Gabriel, RTP. J'ai une question pour...
Yes, I have a question. Yes, I have a question. Can you hear the interpreter? A major report on tax evasion is coming up for the second time. The Panama Papers are now the
100 milieux.
companies that are an important link in the chain of tax evasion. The European Union has looked into trying to link this question with rule of law, but why do we not oblige states here in Europe to start cleaning up?
No puedo decirle nada más que estoy.
Well, I can't really say anything other than that I completely agree, and that certainly is the clear political line of our group. The fight against tax havens, a public blacklist, absolutely, we want to have complete transparency. Absolutely, that is the line of our political group, and we'll continue to push ahead because we will not rest until this is a position which is shared by the European Union as a whole. Now, as you've said, we've seen this before. It's not the first time we've been confronted with the situation. But the more information we get about the situation and the more time goes by, the more alive people are to the need for a tax policy to guarantee transparency and to succeed in the fight against tax evasion. But there are other reasons as well for us to fight this battle. And I am sure that in time, all of these reasons will come together and there will be a common position across the EU. Thank you.
Yes, please.
My name is Anna Vandensky. I work for Europe Diplomatic Magazine. I have a question also on Pandora, because our European Union helps a lot to people of Africa, Kenyans who are very poor, also people of Ukraine, in name of solidarity. So my question is how these revelations will impact aid policy, because we see now that presidents of these countries are involved in these models of tax evasion. So why European taxpayers should help these people while their own leadership is working only in their own egoistic interest?
Sorry. Ese es el argumento.
Absolutely. That's the number one argument. And as I say, the more time goes by, the more arguments we have. Absolutely. We need to move towards a qualified majority on tax issues, because you might just get one prime minister vetoing moves and a prime minister actually involved in these affairs. And I think that the Pandora Papers make clear to ordinary people, to society as a whole, the situation that we have been trying to flag for some time. And that is why we need to move towards a different decision-making process. And we'll insist on that, because it's simply not on that you have a single member state vetoing tax decisions. You know, and then you have the names of these same political leaders who are popping up in the Pandora paper revelations. And this is not because we're members of the S&D group. I mean, it's important that ordinary people be aware of the political responsibility on all sides to act.
Here, questions on the other side, please.
Oui, bonjour.
Yes, I have a question. I represent Agence Europe and I'm speaking French. Can you hear me? Can you hear the interpreter in English? I'm talking about the increase in energy prices. For the S&D group, is nuclear energy a solution to counter climate change and perhaps to counter the rise in prices, as we have heard in part of the debate in France? Thank you.
Con independencia de
Obviously, our members have independent positions on nuclear energy, but personally, I don't think it's sustainable. I mean, I don't think that it's nuclear energy that is going to magically solve the problem of climate change. And obviously, this is an issue that the European Commission is dealing with and had to grapple with when it was putting together the climate package. It's got directives on renewable energies, and obviously that is the right line for the EU. But, you know, of course, there are independent positions on nuclear energy or not. You know, people might think differently, but it's not going to solve climate change. That's clear.
Yeah. Answer. Do we have other questions here in the room or online? I don't think so. If that's not the case, then I wish you a very good week. Thank you very much, Iratxe.
Thanks a lot.